the foundation. Our first question is, what is kinship? And how does this intricate web of relationships play a critical role in one of society's most fundamental institutions, marriage?
Right. So kinship,
Yeah.
basically it's about how we're all connected,
Yeah.
the social relationships.
The ones that come from blood ties, real or, well, supposed sometimes, and marriage.
Exactly.
Yep.
The sources, like Abercrombie, put it just like that. And right away, that kind of splits into two main types.
Okay.
Consanguineal kinship, that's your blood relations, and affinal kinship, which is what you get through marriage.
Consanguineal, a final.
Yeah.
Got it. Seems pretty straightforward so far.
Yeah, but what's truly fascinating is how these connections then ripple out into specific levels of kin.
Levels.
Yeah. We start with primary kin. These are the people directly related to you.
Like a husband and wife, that'd be primary and final.
Perfect. Or your parents and children or your siblings.
Mm-hmm.
Those are primary consanguineal.
Yeah.
The absolute closest ties. Then you have secondary kin. These are the people directly related to your primary kin.
So like my father's brother, my uncle, he's my dad's primary kin, so he's my secondary.
Exactly. Or your spouse's parents, maybe your grandparents.
And it goes even further to tertiary kin.
It does. They're related to your secondary kin. It's like building that family tree, like you said, but with these very specific functional layers. It shows just how far those connections can stretch, and importantly, how they structure relationships.
Okay, wow. Now here's where it gets really interesting, I think. These kinship ties, they aren't just labels.
Not at all. They're incredibly important in regulating marriage.
Right. Who you can or can't marry is often decided by this very family structure.
Absolutely. And Needham, an anthropologist, identified 3 types of rules societies have for marriage.
3 types. Okay, what are they?
First, there are prescriptive rules. These absolutely forbid certain marriages.
Like the incest taboo, that's the big one, right? Marrying close family is almost always off limits.
That's the classic example, yeah. Breaking that usually brings severe social penalties. Avoidance rules can also fall under this.
Okay, forbidden marriages. Then what?
Then we have prescriptive norms. These are rules that are strictly followed, and ignoring them also comes with pretty strong social consequences.
So not forbidden, but strongly prescribed. Like, you should marry a certain way.
Exactly. Our sources give examples like endogamy. That means marrying within your own group. Think caste endogamy in some traditional societies.
Marrying inside the group? And the opposite.
That's exogamy, marrying outside a specific group, like Gotra exogamy in parts of India, where you absolutely must marry outside your own clan or Gotra.
Okay, so forbid, prescribe.
Right.
What's the third?
Finally, there are preferential norms. These promote certain types of marriages as like the ideal or preferred way.
Ah, so not a strict rule, but encouraged.
Right. These could be things like cousin marriage in some cultures, or practices like levirate, where a man marries his deceased brother's wife.
To keep her and the children in the family.
Often, yes. And sororate, where a man marries his deceased wife's sister. Breaking these preferential rules might only lead to mild disapproval, not, severe punishment like the others.
Okay, that makes sense. Proscriptive, prescriptive, preferential. But this raises a big question. Why do these rules even exist?
Good question. In what our sources call closed systems, societies where kinship bonds are really strong and people rely heavily on their larger family group.
Like maybe smaller traditional communities.
Often, yes. In those systems, these rules are followed very strictly. They often emphasize things like maintaining purity of blood or reinforcing existing family bonds, something Levi Strauss really highlighted in his work.
It helps ensure you know your spouse's family well, keeps traditions going.
Exactly. And protects the family's future, like we said with Liverate.
Right.
It's all about maintaining social order and, well, preventing chaos, basically.
So what does this all mean for you listening? Kinship isn't just about who's related on paper.
No, it's about how those relationships act as these invisible architects of society. They shape stability, economic systems, personal destiny, even fundamental choices like who we marry.
And in contrast, you have what the sources call open systems.
Right, more individualistic societies. Kinship bonds beyond the immediate nuclear family tend to be weaker there.
So the main rules are usually just family exogamy, don't marry your immediate family, and the general incest taboo.
Pretty much.
Hmm.
It reflects a shift where personal choice often takes precedence over these rigid kin group rules you see elsewhere.
Fascinating stuff. Okay, let's unpack our next big idea straight from the sources. Descent is a cultural rule. How can we substantiate that?
Okay, descent. So when we talk about descent, what are we actually referring to?
It's about inheritance, right?
Yeah.
And succession, how things get passed down.
Exactly. How rights, property, sometimes even status and obligations are passed down in a family. And wow, it's surprisingly diverse.
So it's not just father to son everywhere.
Not at all. The most common way societies trace their family line is called unilineal descent. Uni meaning one.
So you trace your family exclusively through one parent's line.
That's it. If it's through the male line, it's patrilineal descent, father's line. If it's through the female line, it's matrilineal descent, mother's line.
And you said that's the most common.
Hugely common. Our sources suggest something like 99% of global societies follow some form of unilineal descent. It's kind of mind-blowing. Imagine a world where you only trace your family through your mother or only through your father for official purposes.
Wow. Okay, but what about the other 1%? Are there other systems?
Oh yeah, there are other fascinating systems. Our sources also discuss double or bilineal descent.
Double. So both.
Kind of, but it's specific. You trace from both parents, but, and this is key, You inherit non-overlapping things from each line.
Non-overlapping, how does that work?
Well, the example given is the Yako herders of Nigeria. Ritual knowledge and duties might be traced matrilineally through the mother's line, while productive resources, like cattle or land, go patrilineally through the father's line. So you get specific things from your mom's side and totally different things from your dad's side. It's not a mix and match. It's a very distinct dual inheritance system.
That is really interesting. Any others?
Let's see. Oh, ambilineal descent. This one offers more flexibility.
Yeah.
Individuals are basically free to choose which line of parentage they want to affiliate with.
So you can pick dad's side or mom's side?
Essentially, yes. Or sometimes affiliate with both. The Samoans of the West Pacific practice this. Both males and females can trace from the same line, which gives people options.
Okay, patrilineal, matrilineal, double ambilineal. That's a lot of ways to trace your family history. But back to the main question, why is descent considered a cultural rule? Why not just biological?
Because the rules a society follows depend entirely on its specific sociocultural needs. It's an adaptation.
Ah, so it's shaped by how they live, like economic.
Exactly. Economic factors play a huge role. Who contributes more to the family economy, maybe? Or which profession has more prestige? Is there a strict division of labor?
Like the hunter-gatherer example, often patrilineal because hunting traditionally had high prestige.
That's a common interpretation, yeah.
Yeah.
Even if gathering provides more calories, the prestige associated with hunting might tilt the system towards the male line. These factors can push a society towards one form of descent over another.
What about non-economic factors? Politics.
Political factors definitely matter too. If men in a society are often away maybe for warfare or long-distance trade or fishing expeditions.
And the women might become the stable core back home.
Right. Women might take on the primary role of maintaining social order at home, and this could lead to matrilineal descent, like with the Nayars of Malabar. It makes sense for inheritance and authority to stay with the stable part of the community.
And even things like natural disasters.
Yeah, demographic factors. If a population is drastically reduced by, say, a famine or an epidemic, a more flexible system like ambilineal descent might emerge. It allows people to affiliate with whichever kin group is still viable, helping communities rebuild.
So connecting this to the bigger picture, even something as basic as who you consider family in terms of lineage.
It's a finely tuned cultural adaptation, a response to specific societal needs and pressures. Every society has, in its own way, figured out a system that works best for them in their environment.
Makes sense. Okay, let's shift gears slightly, but stay on this theme of cultural rules. Let's talk about where people live after marriage. The next question is, residence is a cultural rule. How can we substantiate that?
Right, so how do societies decide where spouses set up their home, and why is this also a cultural rule?
It seems pretty fundamental.
It is. Rules of residence define exactly that, the residential status of spouses after they get married. And just like descent, there's a whole spectrum of choices.
Let's hear them. What's common?
Well, patrilineal residence is very common. That's when the couple lives with or near the groom's father's family, or sometimes it's called virile local, if it's near the groom's male relatives more generally.
Makes sense in patrilineal societies, I guess. What's the opposite?
The opposite is metrolocal residence, or sometimes uxury local. They live with or near the bride's family.
Okay.
And some metrolocal societies even have variations, like avunculocal residence.
Avunculocal, what's that? Uncle related?
Exactly. The couple lives with the bride's maternal uncle. Remember, in matrilineal systems, the mother's brother can be a very important figure. We see this with the Kasi people of Meghalaya, for instance.
Wow, okay. Any other weird ones?
Well, maybe not weird, but definitely different from what many expect today. Netalocal residence. Yeah, where the bride and groom actually continue to live in their original separate homes even after marriage.
Wait, seriously? They get married but don't live together?
In some cases, yes. The Nayars of Malabar are cited as an example again. The husband might visit, but they don't form a shared household in the way we usually think of it.
Mind blown. Okay, what else?
There are others, like matripatrilocal, moving between sides. But the big one in many modern societies is neolocal residence.
Neo meaning new.
Right. The couple lives entirely apart from all their kin. They establish a completely new, independent household.
That sounds familiar. Probably what many of us listening would consider the default today, wouldn't it?
Very likely, yes.
Okay, so patrilineal, metrolocal, avunculocal, natalocal, neolocal, quite the range. And just like descent, you're saying these residence rules are cultural because they respond to a society's specific needs.
Precisely. It's the same logic. Economic factors are key again.
Like who contributes more, what kind of economy?
Yep. And think about neolocal residence. It's often linked to cash-based economies with surpluses. People can afford their own separate homes, and maybe jobs require them to move away from family anyway.
Makes sense. Politics too.
Political factors as well. Again, if men are frequently away for long periods, maybe warfare, trade, migrant labor societies might become matrolocal.
So the women form that stable core at home, maintaining social order, like the Trobriand Islanders example.
That's one example given, yes. And demographic factors like natural calamities might lead to more flexible residence patterns like bilocal, moving between sides, or ambilocal, choosing a side, allowing communities to adapt and rebuild.
It really sounds like where you choose or where society expects you to live after you say I do is a direct reflection of that society's priorities and adaptations.
It really is. Which makes you wonder, how much real choice do we have in our residence patterns today? and how much is still subtly influenced by these deeper cultural factors, even in supposedly individualistic neolocal societies.
Good question to ponder. Okay, sticking with descent for a moment. When we talk about unilineal descent, you mentioned it forms groups. Let's clarify two key ones from our sources. How do we differentiate between a lineage and a clan?
Okay, yeah, lineage and clan. Both are types of unilineal descent groups, traced through one line only, but they have distinct differences.
What's the main difference? Size.
Size is part of it, but it's more about the known connection. A lineage is typically the smallest unilineal descent group. Its members can actually demonstrate their genealogical links to a common ancestor.
Demonstrate, like they can literally trace the family tree back.
Usually, yes. The common ancestor isn't too remote, generally just a few generations back. So the kinship bonds are very strong, like a very close-knit, extended family where everyone knows exactly how they're related.
Okay, demonstrable ancestor, smaller group, strong bonds. Got it. And they usually marry outside the lineage.
Almost always exogamous, yes, except for a few specific examples mentioned in the sources.
Okay, so that's a lineage. What about a clan?
A clan, on the other hand, usually comprises several lineages, so it's almost always bigger.
Makes sense.
And here's the key. Members claim descent from a common ancestor, but that ancestor is much more remote, maybe even mythical or symbolic.
Like a totem animal.
Exactly. And the crucial part is the precise genealogical links cannot all be demonstrated or traced step by step back to that ancestor.
Ah, so it's more of a shared belief in common ancestry.
Precisely. Clan bonds are still strong, but maybe less intensely personal than lineage bonds. And clans are generally more stable over long periods.
And marriage rules. Exogamous.
Clans may or may not be exogamous, but if it's a totemic clan, based on that symbolic ancestor, they are definitely exogamous. You wouldn't marry someone from your own totem group.
It's like that family tree branching out the lineage is the close branches. The clan is like the whole major limb.
That's a pretty good analogy, yeah.
Hmm.
And the sources also mention related terms like friendry, groups of related clans, and moiety, when a whole society splits into two big descent groups.
Okay, good distinction. Now, before we leave descent types, let's clarify another potentially confusing pair. How do we differentiate between double and bilateral descent? They sound kind of similar.
They do sound similar, but the sources stress they're actually quite different. This is an important clarification.
Okay, let's break it down. Double descent first. We touched on this.
Right. Double descent, or bilineal descent. Remember, descent is traced from both lines, mothers and fathers.
But for different non-overlapping things, like the Yako getting rituals from one side, cattle from the other.
Exactly. And critically, it's ancestor-focused. It's about inheriting things based on who your ancestors were. It's also permanent. The system continues defining inheritance patterns even after an individual dies. And the rules are the same for all members within the family. It's a fixed, structured system for the whole group.
Okay, structured, permanent, ancestor-focused, non-overlapping inheritance. That's double descent. So how is bilateral descent different?
Bilateral descent is, well, anthropologists now tend to use the term kindred instead because it's seen differently. It's egocentric.
Egocentric, meaning focused on the individual.
Yes, focused on ego, the individual person. It's seen as a more temporary arrangement where an individual affiliates with kin on both sides of their parentage, pretty much equally, but often for a specific purpose.
Like needing help with something, so you call on relatives from both sides?
Kind of, yes. It's not considered true descent in that same structured, group-defining way as unilineal or double descent. It's temporary. The specific network kind of dissolves or becomes less relevant when the ego dies. And it varies from individual to individual within the same family. Your kindred network might be slightly different from your siblings' network, depending on who you activate relationships with.
Okay. So double descent is a system for the group, while bilateral descent or kindred is more like an individual's personal network drawn from both sides.
That's a great way to put it. And it shows how anthropologists refine their understanding, noticing these subtleties about permanence, focus, and structure.
Very clear now. Okay, let's shift to the words we use. The language of family kin terms. We all use them, right? Uncle, cousin, grandmother. But what's really behind them? The next question is, what do we understand by kin terms? And how do we classify them and understand their relevance in human society?
Right, kin terms. Simply put, they're the basic words or labels we use to refer to social relations within a family or domestic group.
And there's an early attempt to classify them.
Yeah, L.H. Morgan, way back in 1871, came up with two main types. He called them descriptive kin terms and classificatory kin terms.
Okay, descriptive versus classificatory. What's the difference?
Descriptive terms supposedly pinpoint a specific, unique relationship, usually for immediate family. Think father or mother. In theory, you only have one of each.
Right.
Classificatory terms, on the other hand, refer to a whole group or category of relations, typically beyond the nuclear family. Cousin is a classic example. You have lots of different actual relatives you lump together under the term cousin. Same with uncle or aunt.
Okay, that seems neat. One word, one person versus one word, many people.
Sounds neat, yeah. But the sources immediately point out that this is really just two idealized extremes.
So real life is messier.
Much messier. No society follows this perfectly because there's just enormous cultural variation. The Hindu example given is great.
Mm-hmm.
Dadi means paternal grandmother. That seems descriptive.
Yeah, one person.
But
yeah.
You might also call any elderly woman in your village Dottie as a sign of respect. Suddenly, it's being used in a classificatory way. So it's not really a strict either situation.
So what actually determines the terms we use if it's not just descriptive versus classificatory?
This is where it gets really interesting. Later anthropologists like Kroeber and Lowy dug deeper. They identified several key factors or criteria that societies actually use, often in combination, to decide which term applies to which relative.
Okay, like what? What are these criteria?
There are quite a few. Things like generation. Obviously, we usually have different terms for different generations, father and son, grandmother and granddaughter. Sex, also very common, differentiating between male and female relatives like father, mother, brother, sister, uncleant.
Okay, those make sense. What else?
Affinity. This distinguishes between relatives by blood, consanguineal, versus relatives by marriage, affinal. So you have a term for your father and a different term for your father-in-law.
Right. In-laws often get separate terms.
Bifurcation. This one's interesting. It means recognizing whether relatives are traced through a male link or a female link.
How does that work?
The Hindu example again. Dada and Dadi are your paternal grandparents through your father, while Nana and Nani are your maternal grandparents through your mother. The linking relative, your father or your mother, matters for the term used. Not all languages do this, but many do.
Ah, I see. That's bifurcation.
Anymore.
A few more important ones. Relative age. Within the same generation, having separate terms for older versus younger kin, like in Telugu, Anna for big brother, and Thamudu for younger brother. English just uses brother.
We miss out on that distinction. You do. There's also collaterality, distinguishing direct line versus collateral, like father versus uncle. Sex of the speaker. Rarely, the term depends on if a son or daughter is speaking. Decedents, super rare. Different term if relative is dead. And polarity. Recognizing relationships have two ends, like aunt-niece. Yeah. Though English cousin ignores this. Cousins just call each other cousin.
Wow. Generation, sex, affinity, bifurcation, relative age. It's truly eye-opening to see just how many different criteria cultures can use to slice and dice family relationships.
Isn't it? It shows the incredible diversity in how humans categorize their social world.
But what's the real relevance here? Why do anthropologists get so excited about these kin terms? Is it just about classification?
Oh, it's much more than just classification. The relevance is in what these terms do, what they signify.
Like what?
Well, a kin term usually denotes a social status, and that status comes with an expected role or behavior. Think about father. That term carries a lot of expectations about roles and responsibilities in most cultures. And this raises a really important question. What can studying these terms tell us about a society's past? Maybe about customs that have vanished.
How so?
W.H.R. Rivers had this idea. He suggested that certain kin terms might be like linguistic fossils. For example, having specific terms like Devar, husband's younger brother, and Mausi, mother's sister, in traditional Hindu society, might hint that practices like levirate, marrying brother's widow, and sororate, marrying wife's sister, were once more common, even if they aren't widespread now. The terms remain even after the practice fades.
So the words themselves are clues to history.
Exactly. And Radcliffe Brown took it even further. He believed that if you thoroughly studied a society's kinship system and its terminology, you could basically understand its entire social structure. He saw it as the absolute key.
So kin terms aren't just labels at all. They're like windows into a society's structure, its history, its values, everything.
Precisely. They're packed with meaning.
Okay. Now, we've talked a lot about descent and how people belong to groups like lineages. But how exactly do individuals get allocated to these groups? And what about the relatives outside your main descent line? Do they just disappear? Our next topic helps clarify this. Let's discuss filiation and complementary filiation.
Right. Filiation is actually pretty straightforward. It's simply the process of allocating individuals to a specific descent group based on whatever rules that society uses.
So if your society is patrilineal, filiation is what officially puts you in your father's lineage group.
That's essentially it. It's the formal assignment. But then we have the really interesting concept of complementary filiation.
Complementary filiation. Okay, what does that add?
This idea, developed by descent theorists like Meyer Fortes, refers to a crucial fact. Even in societies with really strict unilineal descent groups, like strong patrilineages, individuals still recognize and maintain kinship links with relatives who do not belong to their own main descent group.
Ah, so even if you're officially firmly in your father's lineage, you don't just forget about your mother's side. You still have those connections, those relationships.
Exactly. You absolutely do. Fortes studied the Talensi people of Ghana, a patrilineal society. He found they clearly distinguished their lineage links through the father from their complementary filiation links through the mother.
And we're both important.
Definitely.
Right.
But often in different ways. The lineage links tended to be more formal, political, hierarchical. They determined your official status, duties, maybe inheritance of major property.
Okay. And the complementary side, through the mother in this case.
Those links were often seen as more personal, more emotional, maybe associated with ritual support, affection, a sense of individual connection outside the strict lineage structure.
Yeah.
Forte saw them as essential for individual well-being, introducing an element of, well, individuality and balance into the system.
So even in these very structured systems, people maintain these other vital connections. It shows the complex fabric of family isn't just about the official lines.
Absolutely. It's never just one thing. And Jay Goody, another anthropologist, added that sometimes members might even inherit certain types of property or status along these complementary filiation lines too. So it's not purely emotional, it can have practical aspects as well.
That really adds another layer to understanding how kinship works in practice. Okay, so kinship has clearly been a huge focus in anthropology, and two big theories try to explain its overall role in social structure. Let's dive into those now. What are the salient features of descent and alliance theories?
Right, the big theoretical showdown. First up, we have descent theory. This really gained prominence around the 1940s, especially with works like Evans Pritchard's classic study of the Nur in Africa.
Okay, descent theory. What was their main argument?
Descent theorists focus heavily on, well, descent, particularly unilineal descent, patrilineal or matrilineal groups. They often compare these groups, like lineages or clans, to corporations.
Corporations, like businesses, sort of, in the sense that the members acted as a single, unified body in many aspects of life, economic, legal, political matters. The lineage owned land together, they were collectively responsible for members' actions, they acted as a political unit. So the group was the key player.
Exactly. Their main conclusion was that descent, especially unilineal descent, formed the fundamental basis of a society's stability and structure. These groups were the government, the economy, the legal system, all rolled into one, particularly in societies without formal state institutions.
That sounds like a powerful explanation for some societies. But you mentioned a showdown, so it wasn't perfect. What were the criticisms?
Indeed, it faced criticism primarily because, well, not all societies are organized through strong unilineal descent groups. It didn't explain kinship in societies with bilateral kindreds or other systems very well.
And anything else?
It also tended to downplay or minimize the importance of marriage in the final relations, the ties created by marrying outside the group. It was all about the bloodline.
Okay, so focusing too much on bloodlines, not enough on marriage ties, which leads us to
Alliance theory. This perspective really came to the forefront with Claude Levi-Strauss, especially in his hugely influential 1949 book, The Elementary Structures of Kinship.
alliance theory. Sounds like it focuses on alliances
Hmm.
made through marriage.
You got it. Unlike descent theory, alliance theory placed the final relations, the connections made through marriage, right at the center. They argued this was the primary basis of kinship and social structure, not descent.
Okay, total flip. How do they argue that?
Levi-Strauss built his argument on two key ideas: the principle of reciprocity, the idea of give and take being fundamental to social life, and the universal incest taboo.
How does the incest taboo fit in? We usually think of it as a negative rule, something you don't do.
Levi-Strauss flipped that too. He argued the incest taboo is actually a positive marriage rule because it forbids marrying within your own close group. It forces you to marry outside.
Ah, forcing you to connect with other groups.
Precisely. It compels men, in his original formulation, or families, to give their daughters or sisters in marriage to other groups, and in return, they receive wives from those groups. Marriage becomes a reciprocal exchange, primarily, he argued, an exchange of women that forges crucial alliances between families or lineages.
So marriage isn't just personal, it's a strategic exchange creating wider social bonds.
That was his core argument. This constant, ever-continuing reciprocal exchange, driven by the incest taboo, creates what he called the elementary structures of kinship, the fundamental patterns of alliance that hold societies together.
That's a really profound shift in thinking from blood ties being primary to marital alliances being the glue. But inevitably, this theory also faced criticism.
Oh, definitely. A major criticism came from feminist anthropologists who argued it potentially objectified women, viewing them mainly as objects of exchange between men or male-dominated groups, rather than active agents in the process.
Yeah, I can see that. Any other critiques?
It was also criticized, somewhat ironically, for minimizing the role of consanguinity, blood ties, and also residence patterns in shaping kinship. Just as descent theory downplayed marriage, alliance theory perhaps downplayed descent and where people actually live.
So neither theory had the complete picture.
It seems that way. Both offered really valuable insights, but maybe focused too narrowly. The debate between them really shaped anthropological thinking about kinship for decades, pushing everyone to consider both descent and alliance, blood and marriage, structure and strategy.
It shows how complex kinship really is. Okay, moving beyond the big theories and structures. How do kin actually behave towards each other in specific ways? Our sources highlight some really interesting patterned behaviors. This brings us to, let's explore some examples of kinship behavior for understanding purposes. What are some of these definite patterned ways relatives interact?
Right, these are like ingrained social scripts for how certain relatives are supposed to act towards each other. They can be incredibly telling about the underlying relationship.
Give some examples.
Okay, one classic pattern is avoidance.
Avoidance, like they literally avoid each other.
Yes, certain relatives, often affinal ones, related by marriage, are expected to avoid direct physical contact, maybe eye contact, or even speaking directly to each other.
Why would they do that? It seems awkward.
It's often because the relationship is considered somehow vulnerable or potentially problematic according to social norms. Maybe there's a risk of sexual tension or conflict that society wants to preemptively manage. The example given is among the Anj people. An elder brother is supposed to strictly avoid his younger brother's wife. It's about preventing social discord.
Wow. Okay, so avoidance prevents trouble. What's the opposite?
The complete opposite is the joking relationship.
Joking, like telling knock-knock jokes.
Huh. Maybe sometimes, but it's usually much more than that. Certain relatives, again, often specific affinal ones, are permitted, even expected, to interact in ways that cross normal social boundaries. They can tease each other, exchange playful insults, make suggestive remarks, even engage in mock aggression or flirting.
Seriously? Which relatives?
Common examples, cited from India, are the Jijasali relationship, a man and his wife's sister, or Devar Bhavi, a man and his elder brother's wife. It's also noted in tribes like the Ho, Oruan, and Baiga.
So it's like a built-in permission for playful disrespect, a safety valve for social tension, maybe?
That's exactly how anthropologists often interpret it. It allows for a release of potential tension or awkwardness in a controlled, playful way.
Fascinating. Avoidance and joking. What else?
Another interesting one is teonomy.
Technonomy. What on earth is that?
It's when two relatives don't use each other's personal names to address each other. Instead, they refer to each other indirectly, often through a third person, usually a child.
How does that work?
A classic example from some traditional Hindu families is a wife not calling her husband by his actual name. Instead, she might refer to him as wo, meaning him or that person, or more commonly as Bakan ke papa, the father of their children. He might do something similar.
Why? Is it about respect or taboo?
It can be a mix of things: respect, formality, sometimes a taboo against uttering the name of someone senior or an affine. It creates a certain distance, but also emphasizes the parental role.
Okay. And one more really unique one mentioned is kuvad.
Ah, yes, kuvade. This one always gets attention.
What happens in kuvad?
This is where the husband ritually imitates some aspects of his wife's behavior during pregnancy, labor, and childbirth.
The husband does. Like, how?
He might observe food taboos alongside her, rest in bed as if recovering, maybe even groan or cry out as if experiencing labor pains himself.
Get out. Why would he do that?
Anthropologists see it as a symbolic act. It strongly emphasizes the husband's bond with his wife, and crucially, his social paternity and connection to the newborn child. It's a way of ritually validating his role. It's been observed among peoples like the Kasi, Toda, and Malur.
Avoidance, joking, teonomy, kuvad, these aren't just random quirks, are they?
Not at all. They are deeply ingrained social scripts. They reinforce specific roles, manage potential conflicts, express respect or intimacy, and generally help navigate the complexities of the kinship system in that particular culture. Shows just how rich and varied human connection can be.
Absolutely. Okay, let's bring all these threads together now. We need to circle back and really solidify why kinship is so fundamental, especially in anthropology. Our final question is, define kinship and illuminate the importance of kinship in anthropology.
Right, back to the basics, but with all this context now. As we established right at the start, kinship, drawing from Abercrombie, again refers to those social relationships that come from blood ties, real and supposed, and from marriage.
Consanguineal and affinal connections, the bedrock of society, you said.
Pretty much. It forms the basic structure for social life in most places. But why is it so crucially important for anthropology? Why has it been such a central focus?
Yeah, why the obsession?
Well, think about all the areas it touches. In social relations, we just spent a lot of time on this. Kinship rules are critical in determining marriage regulations, who you can marry, who you should marry, who you must avoid.
Right, the prescriptive, preferential rules.
Exactly. And whether those rules are strict, like in closed systems reinforcing group bonds, or more relaxed, like in open systems focusing on the nuclear family, tells you a huge amount about how that society organizes itself socially.
Okay, so marriage regulation is key. What else?
In economic relations, this is huge, especially in non-industrial societies. Often, maintaining social order and fulfilling kinship obligations totally outweighs pure profit maximization. Kinship is vital in how production, distribution, and consumption happen.
Can you give that Kula example again? That seemed wild.
Yeah, Malinowski's study of the Kula ring among the Trobriand Islanders is the classic case. Men undertook these long, dangerous canoe voyages just to exchange shell necklaces and armbands items with seemingly little practical value with specific kin partners on other islands.
Economically irrational on the surface.
Totally. But Malinowski argued the real point wasn't the objects themselves, but the act of exchange. It constantly reaffirmed and strengthened kinship and alliance bonds across islands. He believed the society would basically disintegrate without it. It shows how deeply economic life can be embedded in social ties. Sometimes relationships are the most valuable currency.
Wow, okay, social, economic. What about politics?
And political relations, absolutely. In many simpler societies, especially those without formal states, kinship is the political structure. Concepts of law, justice, social control, they're often built around kinship groups, like lineages or clans.
So like feuds between families instead of lawsuits.
Kind of. And justice often aims not just to punish an individual, but to restore harmony between the kin groups involved, to prevent the breakdown of those essential bonds. Evans Pritchard's work on the Newer is relevant again here. He described how feuds between lineages weren't solved by a formal court, but often by a respected mediator, the leopard skin chief, who came from a neutral lineage and worked to get compensation paid and peace restored between the feuding families. Kinship was the framework for law and order.
Okay, and even religion.
In religion, yes, definitely. Think about practices like totemism, which Durkheim studied among Australian Aboriginal groups. The totem, often an animal or plant, is linked to a specific clan.
Like the clan symbol.
It's more than a symbol.
Yeah.
Durkheim argued the totem represents the clan itself, its collective identity, and its ancestors. The relationship between the clan members and their totem is often framed in kinship-like terms based on descent. The totem regulates activities, dictates respect, sometimes involves marriage rules, like not marrying someone with the same totem. Religion and kinship are deeply intertwined.
So looking at all that social, economic, political, religious life kinship isn't just one part of society.
Not at all. In many contexts, it's the fundamental blueprint, the basic organizing principle for almost everything. from daily interactions to major life events to spiritual beliefs.
That makes it crystal clear why it's been such a cornerstone for sociocultural anthropology. It's like a master key for understanding how human societies work.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, wow. We have covered a ton of ground today. Let's do a quick recap, try and lock in some of these fascinating ideas, maybe like we're grabbing a quick coffee and hitting the highlights.
Sounds good. Let's test that recall. Think about it, everyone listening.
First off, can you define kinship in your own words? And maybe remember those three types of marriage regulations, the forbidden ones, the strictly required ones, and the merely preferred ones. Proscriptive, prescriptive.
Preferential, yeah. And why do societies even have those rules? What's the point?
Okay, next. How is descent a cultural rule? Think about the economic or political reasons behind it. And can you recall the difference between tracing your family through just one parent's line
Unilineal.
versus getting specific, different things from both parents' lines
Girls' descent, right?
and residence?
Yeah.
How is that also a cultural rule? Can you picture what patrilineal means?
Oh.
Or matrilineal, or that one where you set up a whole new house away from everyone?
Neolocal. Common for many of us today, maybe.
Okay, quick difference. Lineage versus clan. Which one involves an ancestor you can actually point to on the family tree versus one that's more distant or symbolic?
Demonstrable links versus claimed links.
And kin terms, those words we use. What are some of those maybe unexpected factors beyond just generation or sex that shape which term we use for which relative? Remember bifurcation, relative age.
Yeah, all those criteria societies use to carve up the family tree differently.
And finally, think about those unique kinship behaviors, like having to completely avoid certain relatives,
Or having permission to joke around outrageously with others.
or that couvade thing where the dad acts pregnant. What social purpose do those kinds of behaviors actually serve?
Phew. That's a lot to recall.
It is, but amazing how many layers there are to something as seemingly simple as family, something we often take for granted, isn't it? Just thinking about those questions probably sparked a few aha moments.
Hopefully.
Well, that was a truly comprehensive deep dive into kinship and its really profound impact on human societies, from who we call cousin to where we live after marriage.
These intricate cultural rules shape everything around us. It certainly shows us that understanding family isn't just about biology, not by a long shot.
No, it's about the culture, the rules, sometimes explicit, sometimes hidden, that bind us, define us, maybe even challenge us sometimes.
It really provides this rich tapestry of human experience, far more complex and fascinating than it often seems just living inside it.
Indeed. And maybe this brings us to a final provocative thought for you, our listeners, to mull over. How might the seemingly universal human experience of family, something we all feel we know intimately, still be shaped by forces you haven't really considered, even in your own life right now?
Makes you think.
Take a moment sometime to think about the why behind your own family's customs, the big ones, or even the small, seemingly insignificant ones. Where do they come from?
Good food for thought.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of kinship.
It's been fascinating unpacking it all.
Keep questioning, keep exploring, and we'll catch you next time.